Love is simply one word. It's unspoken. The foundation of life. What is this all about? There is no greater narcotic on this planet. You can line them all up and it won't come close to the dopamine hit that you get from love. Because love don't even have to touch you to make you feel some kind of way special. Welcome back to the Art of Love with Dr. O, and I'm yours truly, Dr. O. All them love birds out there, I see you. I see you. All my love angels out there, I see you. I see you. Putting in all that work, bringing more people into this family of love. It's what the world actually needs, this universe that we are in. It was created from love, unspoken love. See, and that's the love that your mother gave you. Unspoken love, the creator of love in your life, if you had a good one. And as you reach into yourself to understand that it all starts with you. Anyone not happy about you loving you, got to start asking yourself some questions. A butcher, when it gets a nice slice of meat, sometimes you got to trim that negative fat out your life. You've tuned into the right place. The Art of Love with Dr. O. Welcome back to the Art of Love with Dr. O, and I'm yours truly, Dr. O. To all my love birds out there putting in hard work, I appreciate you. Continue on. To all my love angels out there in love land, continue putting in that good work, because there's a lot of people out there like ourselves that need love. And if you love the people in your life, you're going to bring them into our happy family. But also remember, in order to really get in and become a love angel, that comes with an apology to yourself in the mirror. After you do that, you're a love angel. Today, we have a special Let's Talk About It, I have a couple of gentlemen on the show today that's going to give their opinions and their thoughts on the topics that I'm going to bring up. With no further ado, to my left, I have Patrick Newsom. And to my further left, I have Marcus Springer. And today on Let's Talk About It, I have 3 topics I want to talk about. And starting it off, I like to ask you guys, it's 2023. I remember growing up in the 70s when minimum wage was about $3,000, brand new car was $3,000. My parents purchased their house for $23,000. And one man could actually go to work, the wife could stay home with the kids. And they even made a television series called Let's Talk, Wait Till Your Father Get Home. I know you guys remember that. Mm-hmm. And, the American dream was being fulfilled. Even in the 60s and the 50s, they actually cultivated family values. And now that it's 2023, we see that most of that has been eroded away. Mm-hmm. And daycare nowadays is a house note. But in order to survive, one, can't do it alone. 2, argue to try and figure it out how they're going to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. It dang near take 3 incomes. I just want to know your views on what you think. How did we go left? Where do we miss our mark on what we had?
I think that's a good question, Dr. O, because at the end of the day, you mentioned, even to start this whole thing off, you mentioned the American dream.
Yeah.
And I forget what I heard this from. It was a couple months ago. They said that they call it the American dream because you got to be asleep to believe it.
Whoa.
Right. So it just that in itself is a lot to chew on, right?
Right.
But when you talk about the American dream, wait till your father gets home, the family values of the 70s and probably 80s. The 2023 dream is different than what
It's survival.
than the 1980
It's survival.
dream, right? And there's a lot of different reasons for that, right? I think today, I'm gonna call it people, period. Society is more of a comparative situation. Like, so I'm comparing myself to other things that I see.
Right.
And so if person A or person B is living a lifestyle of X, Y, Z,
Right.
then the first question becomes, well, how come I'm not?
Right.
Right. So that starts as an individual, and then you get people to get together and try to create a family. And when you get together and try to create that family, you still got two individuals that have two different dreams that came together, supposed to have one dream.
Right.
And that dream is supposed to be family, but it's not.
Right.
It's comparing.
Right.
So back in the day when they talked about trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
So take that from this, just let's call it the 70s and 80s, and then I'll bring it forward 40 years. See, the Joneses didn't have all the different ways and means. All they saw was a social circle.
Right.
Now you can see the whole world.
Right.
And compare yourself to that world.
Right.
So when you talk about the dream, the family dream or the American dream, well, it's changed.
Yes, it has.
And since it's changed, then the people are adopting or trying to adapt to the dream, and then family values has been lost.
Yes. I think society has a lot to do with that dream not being even possible to be fulfilled. My sister said something very enlightening. She said, rent should be based on minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm lucky to get the hours to make $15,000 a year, then based on that minimum wage, because every American citizen should have a right to work 40 hours, put food on the table and a roof over their head, and have transportation. But with $15,000 a year, then they got nerves enough to take taxes out. I really believe, love angels out there in Loveland, I personally believe that if you work for minimum wage, if your salary is at the minimum wage, I don't think taxes should be taken out. Mm-hmm. I think you should be able to have that because you need that, you know, and minimum wage to me. So if it's $15 an hour, I don't know. Don't hold me to it, but I think I believe it's around there. Maybe rent should be about what? $250, $300? It's about $300, man.
So I don't know how to put a dollar figure on that, right? $15 an hour is roughly about $30,000 a year. If you keep that, you know, that
if you're lucky
40
to get
hours,
the 40 hours, they don't give it to them because they don't want to pay the medical and the dental and all that stuff.
For the sake of argument,
okay,
right? $15 an hour, roughly translating to about $30,000 a year, a little bit more,
right?
Okay? And so if you look at what $30,000 a year will do, depending on where you are
after taxes.
Well, let's just say let's live in your world, right? No taxes. You minimum wage, no taxes. Okay. $30,000 a year, right? Mm-hmm. Depending on where you are now, we know where we are right now in California, right? That's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. Now, back when I was coming up, and I was making minimum wage, right? Going out and getting an apartment with some friends or something like that, it was possible, but rent was like what, $500, $600, $700? Right. Okay. But my minimum wage was also a whole lot different, and a lot of us who went out and got apartments ended up back at home because we couldn't handle the $500, $600. Right.
And love angels out there in Loveland, there is nothing wrong with being at home to regroup.
Nothing.
You know, I was doing a bar mitzvah, and they were spending like $250,000 on the young kids' bar mitzvah, and the father said to me, he said, "You know, Art, a lot of Americans, they kick their kids out too early. They kick their kids out too early." He said, "For me, everything that I do financially is to finance whatever my son needs to elevate himself to the level that when he has kids, he can do the same thing for his kids. See? So whatever my son's kids need, I'm taking care of that. See? And this is how we get ahead, is that we finance the next generation. And we make sure that the generation that's trying to get it together don't have no bills. You can go to college. You can have a stress-free life to get the foundation you need to take care of your kids. Now, here in California, people are a paycheck away from homelessness. You know, in California has a homeless epidemic. They don't even have answers.
Yeah, they got homeless communities.
Yeah,
like entire communities of tents and people literally on the streets, right? And somebody told me something a couple weeks ago where they were talking about the homeless community, and they knew somebody who lived in one, but they had a job. Right. But what the cost of living is here, they literally can't afford it.
I take even further than that. I know some people that go to Walmart, buy tents, and charge the homeless to stay in it. This is where we at. You know, I worked in Beverly Hills, and not that there's anything wrong, but there's a doggy restaurant. And the dogs can go in, sit down, and the waiter will bring them a hot meal. And the dog will come out, shake his head at the homeless person sitting at the ground, break wind, hop in the car, and go. This is where we're at in America. Okay? I don't mean to make a joke.
I'm sorry.
But I have to make it visual so you can understand where we're at.
Right.
This is where we're at. And like I said, 70s minimum wage, 3,000. Okay, brand new car, 3,000. House, 8 to 12. So if you get a good deal, max 20 something thousand.
Right.
But that's the reason why everybody was dancing.
Right.
In the 70s.
Right. Lindy hopping.
At the same time, though, we've gotten a lot more selfish and more one-sided here lately. Everybody's going for self now.
Yeah, we don't even know our neighbors.
We don't know. Yeah, there were neighborhoods. There were people.
You remember our mamas used to say, "Baby, go across the street and
That's
tell Sister
right.
Jennings,
Get some sugar."
I need
That's
some
right.
sugar and I
But
need
not
some butter."
just that, but just amongst each other, just amongst the men and the women. You know, now the women, they feel like, okay, I'm working now and I'm doing this. You need to be here. So you need to do what I'm doing, instead of us just taking what we do and putting them together. We are trying to be better than one another. And when you see that, I see that in homes right now. People are competing.
Right.
They're not trying to do this together anymore.
That's not love.
And that's not love at all. That's me trying to be above the person that I said I loved. If you walking together, you walking together. You're not trying to walk ahead of me. We trying to do this with our
If
hands.
you have
in
two
a lot.
individuals that are competing with each other
That's right.
in a household,
That's right.
what that means is when I was at the altar with you, I didn't love you. I just wanted to use you to elevate above you.
Well, let me put it in these terms, because I said earlier how the dream changed, right? So I don't know about you, Pat, but I know I've been at the altar, right?
Right?
Okay. I know you've been at the altar.
Yes.
Okay. And so you stood right next to, your spouse to be,
Right.
and you looked her in the eyes, right? And she was looking
Yes.
at you in the eyes.
Yes.
A lot of times today when people do that, they're looking at their opponent. It's like a boxing match.
Right.
It's like the
Right.
pre-game.
Ding,
It's
ding.
it's like the pre-fight,
Right.
right? It's the stare down.
Well, back in the 60s, 50s, and beyond, there was courting. The elders took it upon themselves to make sure that you guys better understood what you were getting into
Yeah.
and helped you understood if you guys were a good match for each other. Now, Facebook is the match for marriage. And that's the reason why, statistically speaking, marriage is failing.
Right.
I'm in the process of mastering my universe. I'm far from perfect. Like I started off the show saying, I have over 100 pounds to lose. But I'm slowly but surely doing something about it. You know, I had a conversation on the phone today about that. And my friend, my business partner, she was talking about how they opened up this McDonald's by one of her jobs, and she said, "Art, I don't know what it is. I haven't ate McDonald's like this," and I had to explain to her that you can't eat a McDonald's French fry and not think about it the next day. Gotta ask yourself, what's in that French fry? I'm not gonna go no further than that. We had a deep conversation. And, you know, if you just sit in your car at different restaurants, you would see what the restaurants is doing to the people that's going there. You know, sit inside the parking lot, Burger King, McDonald's, and just see what the people look like going in and out. Go sit in front of Subway, and you will see what the people look like that's going in and out. And unconsciously, we're depending on others to fix us when we can fix ourselves. So, ladies, my love angels out there, ladies, when we put the makeup on, don't put it on to cover up what's inside of you. Gentlemen, when we look in the mirror, don't act tough with others if you can't be tough enough to love yourself, to be right by others. Because if I had a conversation with dude in that mirror, he'll tell me some things that you know. So that's the first level that we've been discussing is level 1, DEFCON 1, frequency 1, slightly the negativism. But there's a level above that, and that's level 2. And when you look on the DEFCON scale, the higher you go up, the lighter it gets. You know, DEFCON 3, Kanye spoke about that. And that's just a system of alertness to say that there's activity going on in the world beyond America's borders. DEFCON 2, things are lining up to be engaged with another nation. DEFCON 1, it's intimate. The missiles are in the air. So at DEFCON 2, negativism, the goodism. See, that means that you're on the fence. You looked at your parents, you've seen all the negativism of them, and you know right from wrong, and you try your best to do it. But just like, you know, Pookie and Menace Society. Well, that wasn't Menace Society. That was Pookie in New Jack City. I love Menace Society, too, that negativism. I don't like that. I don't like that shit right there. I'm going to drop the dime. See, that's that negativism. But Pookie in New Jack City, it just keep calling me. It keep calling me. I don't know what it keep calling me. So when you know right from wrong, but that wrong always just shows up, then you're on frequency 2. Your vibe is 2. See, you're on 2. You know, most of the day things is going right, but somebody show up with that, you know what? And instead of you doing the positive thing, you get called back into the negativism and you just bathe in it. And you have to say to yourself, where do I want to be? You know, you can't have a foot in heaven and a foot in hell. Although a lot of us, that's exactly what we do. We know right from wrong, but we choose to just straddle the fence because we addicted to that dopamine hit of negativism. I wish somebody would say something. But then we go to church every Sunday. Oh, Lord. Yeah, so this is the middle road right here. This is level 2. And this individual that's standing in front of you that you see, you have to ask yourself, okay, goes to church every Sunday, but then his actions beyond the church isn't so holy. And it goes against the principles of him actually going to church and being in church. Of course, no one's perfect. No one's perfect, but you know, it's how much do you strive to be right? And that comes from you just mastering the universe that exists inside of you. No one's stopping you from letting go of the negativism. So when you see that individual that you thinking might be right for you, instead of them saying that glass is half empty or half full, let's just say it's a cup of water. Because they don't want to admit what it is or it isn't. They're in the middle. And you have to ask yourself, do I want a middle-minded person? Do I want someone that's not strong enough to admit the truth? To admit that when they're right and be humble about it. But when they're wrong. And that can get you into a lot of arguments. You know, if you're on that tier 3, if you're on that top level, that top frequency, and we'll get into that a little later on, but if you're there and this individual is on 2, then you have to ask yourself, well, maybe, you know, if this person don't figure it out or at least try, this isn't the right person for me. Because I want to be positive. And remember, just because somebody's relationship may operate on DEFCON 1, okay, doesn't mean that their relationship won't last a lifetime. Because I told you, my parents' relationship lasted a lifetime, and man, were the bombs going off. Man, I think America, if they had an arsenal like my parents, if they was, man, whoo, woo-wee. But you learn either what to do or what not to do. And you got to choose the right thing to do if you want to be positive. So, you know, well, I cook for my man. I love him. I told a young lady, well, just because somebody cooked for you don't mean the meal was made out of love. You know, somebody can put a meal together and just throw it at you. Is that love? I used to have an ex that would cook for me, but she would never eat, and I was sick. And my mother told me, stop eating the cooking, son. Y'all be careful of that, man. If somebody cooking for you, but they ain't eating the food that they cooking for you, you need to grab that plate and say, have some. Have some. And if they, then you might want to be like, okay? So, you know, just think about that. You know, where do you want to be? We talked about the negativism, and next time I'm going to pick back up on the middle ground, and then I'm going to go back into the top tier, and that's the frequency of peace, the frequency of love, the mastering of your universe, you finding heaven within inside yourself. Often enough, the misery that exists around us and inside of us comes from the God that's within us, and that's us. See, we can't create misery and wonder why misery exists. We have to find our own peace of mind and happiness. Hey, it might be somebody out there might say, man, I love the misery. I love what it is. This is me. And so be it. My parents did. I get it. But if you want peace of mind, happiness, tranquility, and love, and just heaven on earth inside yourself, then you can give that to yourself. Hopefully, just hopefully, there's somebody out there that understood the things that I'm telling you. And when you look at someone, use these 2 powerful tools, these ears, and just listen. And use these powerful eyes and just watch. And they'll tell you with their actions and the things that come out of their mouth exactly if they're the right fit for you. But don't be a hypocrite. Don't ask for level 3 frequency and you know you level 1. See, that goes into, don't expect somebody to love you if you ain't willing to love yourself. Don't expect honesty if you ain't honest with yourself. Don't expect the best friend to come in your life if you ain't the best friend of yourself. Like I told you before, how you gonna cheer and get excited about an entertainer or an athlete, and you don't get excited about that person in the mirror? See, a lot of you guys don't know what athletes and entertainers go through. And if you did, you might be happy just being you. See? So learn to master the universe that exists inside of you. And in closing, I'm going to wrap this up, and that is, like I always tell my love angels, make sure that loving you is a priority thing for you to do. You know, if someone owed you money, you would remind them that they owe you money. If someone took something of value from you and you saw them, you would remind them. Well, when you look in the mirror, remind yourself that there's a debt that you can never pay back, and that is, you got to love me. You got to love me. Say it to yourself when you look in the mirror. You got to love me. Okay? And until next time, make sure, once again, say it with me, my love angels. Make sure that loving you is a priority thing for you to do.
United One Protection Services. With over 30 years of experience, United One Protection Services has more expertise and knowledge than the other security companies combined. Residential, commercial, municipal, or institutional, United One Protection Services does more than just security. We protect your livelihood. United One Protection Services.
Okay, on to our next Ask Dr. O. What advice can you give a newly divorced middle-aged man on finding love after being in the dating scene pool for years, after not being in the dating scene pool for years? Whew. Well, I would say this is a perfect opportunity for you to take a look at yourself and say, well, the last thing I want to do is take any burden or issues that I had manifested in this prior relationship, the reason why it ended in divorce, and carry that into something new. I would say it's a good time for you to get to know you, to love you. See, once we, like I always tell my love angels out there in Love Land, once we love ourselves and we begin to trust ourselves and listen to ourselves and believe in ourselves, then the universe will give you that gift that you've been waiting for. You know, when you go through a divorce, it isn't easy, especially if you have kids. And if you do have kids, just make sure that you're there for them, you know, because that's hard for kids. It's even worse if they don't see their parents smile after divorce. So the best thing you could do is, if you have kids, make sure that just because you break up with someone, it doesn't mean that you still can't love them. You just realize that it wasn't a good fix. And I'll be getting into frequencies so that you won't have to worry about, is she a good fix or not? Is he a good fix or not? Because once you dial into the frequency of who you're dealing with And first and foremost, understanding the frequency that you are giving off to be the right match for you, then the universe would give you the main course. So I tell everyone, if you're going through a breakup, it's just an appetizer that you got to slide off the table and get ready to receive the main course. But in order to receive that main course, you have to love yourself. I got a lot of love in myself to do. I got a lot of loving to do for myself, you know. Like I said in previous shows, I have over 100 pounds to lose. And I know that accomplishing that is not going to be easy when everything on the shelf is going against you trying to accomplish that. And then the good stuff that you try and buy is so expensive. Why would you make healthy food more expensive than, yeah, another conversation for another day. But get a gym membership, you know? Stop by Barnes and Noble. Find something nice to read. You know, you find good girls in Barnes and Noble. You know, go to the library. Go to the beach. Take yourself out to eat. You don't need anybody. You desire them. This is one thing that as humans we're not taught, that it's okay to be by yourself. And it's okay to love yourself. And in doing so, you'll probably bump into somebody that's doing the same thing. And then you guys can get to know each other. So I would say don't rush into something else too soon. Take your time and love you. And that's coming from Paul from Sacramento, California. Paul, there's a lot of beautiful ladies in Sacramento, but you have to remember, that's only one city, one state, one country. There's a whole nother world out there waiting for you, Paul. Over 4 billion ladies waiting for you. And if there's a lady like Paul out there, there's over 4 billion men waiting for you. And I hear you, love angels. I hear what you're saying. You're saying, well, where are they? Well, where are they? You say that there's 4 billion men and 4 billion women. Where are they? I can't find them. Well, you got to ask yourself, am I looking in the right place? You know, am I looking in the right place to acquire such a beautiful thing? Take that into consideration. Another thing is I've discovered where all the beautiful, handsome young ladies are and young men are. And that is, where are they? I found out where they're at. They're stuck in relationships that they shouldn't be in. Good people are catering to nonsense that they shouldn't be catering to. See? Yeah. How many of you out there doing that? You know there's a stop sign on his head, on her head. You know this. And you still chose to run it, to be in this relationship. And I'm going to say what I always say. You know he's a crackhead when you met him. So why are you surprising yourself when you already knew the answers to all these things? See? Where are all the good people? They're catering to people that don't appreciate and love them. So when that knucklehead is in the bed, sleep, snoring, or she's snoring, you need to sneak away to the bathroom. Look in the mirror and apologize to yourself for putting up with that while they in the bed. I hate her. I hate him. And while they snoring hate songs, you need to sneak away to the bathroom and apologize to yourself. And then take a shower and just wash them all off of you. And say to yourself, we're going to start working on getting us right. We're going to start working on loving us. Because DR.O said, all the good people are catering to people that don't appreciate them. And once that stops, the plethora of good people will be standing right in front of you.